Hey guys, what's up? Take a look at this lecture. You've seen so many openings, and you've seen so many lines, gambits, and interesting stuff, but I guess you've never seen what I'm about to show you. It's called, it happens in Sicilian Alapin, and now you're surprised. e4, c5, c3, d5, and all of a sudden, white plays knight a3. It's called Yen Gambit. And I just have to thank to my student Max from Poland for telling me about this, giving me some ideas and analysis there. And I even tried it twice, and both times it worked perfectly. I won both of my games within 15 moves. Let's go. So we're talking about Sicilian Alapin. You're going to play this from white's point of view. Play e4, c5, c3. As you know, one of the main points of the Sicilian Alapin is to play next move d4 and build up a strong center. You know, there are so many moves, so the Yen Gambit works against d5 only. And when they play d5, which by the way is supposed to be the main move in this position, you go with knight a3. Another curiosity. I checked databases with Bullet, Blitz, Rapid Games Online, and knight a3, of all the moves at this point, scores absolutely the best. Also, after knight a3, you're just having some very interesting ideas that are related with Jobbava-Rapport system in the London with bishop f4 and knight b5. And as well, in some positions, that knight goes to b5 and sometimes goes to c4. So let's go. First of all, I have to show you all these moves. Let's say they're afraid of your knight b5 ideas and they immediately go with a6. You just take on d5, play knight f3, and then you have d4, which is the main line of the Alapin variation, plus you have knight c4 with tempo threatening on b6 because they just weaken the b6 square. I don't want to go deeper than this. You have knight c4, you have bishop c4, you have d4. Basically, white just has a very, very nice initiative. On e6, there is a very nice line. You play d3, and just when they think actually, oh, this is another boring guy, let me just go with d takes c4. Now the real shock is happening. You just go with the gambit bishop f4. And you know what? You provoke them to take, in which case you take by bishop and develop your pieces, or you threaten knight b5 all of a sudden. Take a look at this one. It looks really crazy. This is really, I was completely shocked in the most positive fashion when I realized about this gambit. So you're going to like it so much. Another thing, d3, d takes, they go knight c6. I don't care. I just play knight to f3. Now you're going to say, can I go with this now? Yes, you can. But you know what? When I play d takes c4, and when you take, first of all, my pawn on c3 kind of limits your knight on d4. That's one thing. And another thing, I'm going to have knight c4 and knight b5. And in both of these cases, I'm going to have like not only threats, tactical threats with knight b5, knight c7, but also knight c4, bishop f4 with a full domination on the dark squares, knight d6, knight c7, or simply controlling the dark squares. They go knight c6. You just go with d4, but you don't play takes d5, because he takes d5 will just go into the main Alapin variations. And now these guys say, okay, but wait a sec, what's this? What if I take the pawn for nothing? Boom! And then you're just, like squeezing this knight out, and when they move it, check! And now you say, okay, so what? Take! And now the knight is hanging. So when they play knight g6, you know what's the most efficient way of kicking the knight away and playing against it. h4 followed by h5. On top of all that, sometimes you even have knight b5 threatening knight d6 modern mate, or knight c4 followed by knight d6. Very lovely and very refreshing. d4, let's say they go with, for example, e6. You just go bishop f4. And once again, you threaten knight b5. So if they go d takes e4, knight b5, they're lost. If they go a6, to avoid that, you now take. Can they take? Well, they can take. But in that case, do I have, okay, they threaten check here, so watch out not to blunder this piece. And you know what? I mean, you can, I wish I could play this. And after queen e4, now I might be having some problems with this bishop. Probably I would have to go with this one, or maybe this one. I'm threatening knight b6. I'm threatening knight b6 to win the piece, to win the rook. Probably I should play like this because the queen is in the middle of nowhere. I can always kick it away. I can play queen d2 followed by a long castle. I can play knight d6 afterwards. This looks good. When he takes d5, they play takes d5, and now I'm taking advantage of my knight on a3. So the best blocking piece in chess is knight. So I'm just controlling the IQP, isolated queen's pawn on d5, so I'm just going to play knight f3. I want to take on c5 and at some point bring all my pieces onto the d4. Two basic rules against the IQP. What's that? Block, and the best blocking piece in chess is knight, so we get it. And second thing, keep exchanging pieces. So all things considered, there is only one more line here. What if they take on d4? If they take, you take queen and play knight b5. Now you have a better version of all those Alapin systems. And for example, in one of my games, the guy played queen e5, which was bad. I played bishop e2. The guy took the pawn. I played knight f3. And the guy played queen b8. I just played short castle, and I enjoy this. This reminds me of Danish Gambit. When the guy captured, I played bishop b2, and you know what? I'm down 2 pawns, but please don't tell me anything about this position because my king is in safety. I have 4 minor pieces developed, and everything is just open. If I manage to play rook e1 followed by move my light square bishop and go with knight d6, then you're dead lost. Take a look at this bishop on b2. I mean, this is so difficult for playing. And I won this game very easily. My opponent played knight f6. I said, you know what? This is not a best move. I checked it out afterwards. But I played rook e1 because I wanted to play the most logical bishop f1 and bishop c4, simply adding all my pieces into the action. The guy played a6. You know what? Just put the knight into the center, and then I just really wanted to enjoy my game. The guy tried to complete his development. I thought about knight c6, but I decided to go completely crazy with this one and sacrificed everything and won the game. But I don't want to show you now like the rest of the game because there were here some ups and downs, and eventually I won in a beautiful fashion. But you know what? If the game is not fully correct and sound, I don't want to show you that. Finally, if knight a3, they go knight c6. Sorry, knight c6, d4. They go d4. d4 is not a good thing. Now our knight on a3 gets its full, role there. So knight f3, knight c6. We go bishop b5. We want to get rid of this bishop. We want to take on c6, creating double pawns. We would like to play short castle, placing our king in safety. And on top of all that, after bishop d7 castles, give up bishop for the knight, take on d4, play d3, and play knight c4. Take a look at this position. Much better. First of all, bishop on c6 worth nothing. Second thing, they have problems with the d4 pawn. Third thing, they have problems with e5 square. Even if they play f6 and d5, on top of all that, they can sacrifice sometimes, followed by queen h5. So all things considered, this position really looks great for us. And finally, let's take a look what happens in majority of games in this variation. They all take on e4, and you play gambit. This is not opening. And by the way, if you ask me, when did it happen for the first time? It happened back to, I believe, 2009, where a correspondence player played queen a4 check. The guy played knight c6 and took the pawn on e4. Makes no sense. You give up a pawn in the center to be able to recapture it afterwards with the queen, and then your opponent can chase away your pieces. Your knight is on the rim of the board, queen is in the middle of nowhere. What for? So don't play like this. So in your question, so Maya, what are we supposed to play here? d3, buddy. We played the gambit. So let me just show you. I'm just going to show you like the basic ideas, 2 of my blitz games, and a little bit of analysis here and there. So after d3, they can take on d3 and play knight f6. If they take on d3, You always play bishop d3. Now you have already two minor pieces developed, and once again I point out your main idea: place your queen on e2, put the bishop on f4, and go with the knight either on b5, threatening knight c7, or knight c4, especially if they play a6 and e6 moves. So what's happening? Literally, I just have to briefly cover every single move. I'll try with probably the weakest one. The weakest one here is e5. Makes no sense to put this pawn into the center while we're just, like going for the piece activity. So queen e2 going after e5, knight c6, and knight f3. You have short castle, you have knight c4, you have bishop f4, you have rook half to e1 and rook a to d1. White has a huge development advantage, and for my taste, this is almost winning. Another thing, apart from e5, could be g6. G6 is one of those I'd like to complete my development with bishop g7, knight f6, and castle. But guys, don't forget, our main idea is bishop f4 followed by knight b5. And now, if you go with a move like bishop g7 to face knight b5 with e5, I go bishop e3, and this is exactly my blitz game. The guy played, okay, I was already kind of satisfied with bishop e3 because I have three minor pieces. He has some holes on d6 and c5 and c7, and the guy played a6. I was hoping actually for this move, and I played queen a4. Right now, I knew something was wrong about black's game. I was threatening long castle, and that's exactly what happened afterwards. He can't take on b5 because a8 was hanging. If he plays bishop d7, I mean, you just go with the knight d6, which basically afterwards happened in the game. King f8, queen a3, bishop c5, and so on, long castles, and king is so weak, you can just break it afterwards. Another thing is, instead of g6, for example, they just go with e6. E6 is a logical thing, but it doesn't stop our main idea, and it's a gambit approach with bishop f4 followed by knight b5, and when they play e6, knight c4. This is another game that I played within the last 7 days. My opponent went for b5. Looks quite tempting to attack my knight, and bishop e4. You can defend rook on a8 and knight on b8. It's very easy to slip away, blunder something, and thanks to a numerous of and various tactical threats, to lose the game so easily with the black pieces. And finally, a6. a6 is aimed against knight b5. Okay, you guys play a6. You want to avoid my knight b5, but at what cost? Now you've just weakened this square. Why is that important? Because when I play bishop f4, I want to play queen e2 followed by long castle. So after knight e6, queen e2. Believe it or not, it's already +1 according to the engine. And long castle is about to happen, and knight c4. I found more than 1,000 games online like this. Fun fact, I don't even know how is black going to defend this. Because if you play, I don't know, bishop d7, I have knight c4 threatening smothered mate. If you play e6 afterwards, I can play knight d6 in the worst case scenario, winning the bishop pair, and I have an amazing game. You can castle and everything is good. I can play bishop e4, opening up the d file, threatening bishop c6, knight d6, bishop d6, whatever. I can play knight f3, taking control of e5 and doing just great. So they can't play any of this. So after like a6, bishop f4, knight c6, queen e2, knight f6, long castles, they can do something else, but we're going to actually go into, from different order moves, into the same position. What's that? Let's imagine our opponent goes, by the way, and if knight f6, you just go bishop f4. And let's say they go e6. You go queen e2. So what? They want to complete the development. Okay, I also want to complete development with long castle. Now you don't have time to play castle because bishop h7 and we win the queen. You got to play, for example, makes no sense to play queen a5. Because if you play queen a5, now in the worst case scenario, I'm saying in the worst case scenario, I can play knight c4, knight b5. Of course, I'm going to first play king b1 to defend on a2, to be able to go knight c4, harassing this queen with tempo, and penetrating here on d6. Bishop pair, control of e5, attack and tactics with bishop h7. All these things, they just give us so much better position. So After bishop d7, knight f3, castle. Who cares about that? I just play like this. I want to play knight g5. I want to play knight d5. I want to play h5, h6. I want to play g4, g5. I want to play knight c4. Somehow, if they accept this gambit, it becomes so dangerous and practically undefendable for them. And finally, if in this position, they just go with e6, queen e2, and they just say, okay, I want to play like this. Buddy, you can try it out. But it's not my fault. I give you a check and rook d1, and how are you going to save the piece? So just like you see, full of tactics, full of tricks, and very few ways for black to defend themselves. a6, not a lucky thing for them as well, because when they play e6, maybe they just prevented knight b5. But you know what? They're just one side of a coin. Now we just go with queen e2, we go long castle, knight bd7 instead of all these moves. Okay, knight c4. If you play bishop e7, I go with bishop knight d6, bishop d6, bishop pair, inability to make castle, king remains in the center. This is just for the beauty of the lecture. Imagine they play h6. I don't know why. Maybe you play knight f3, they play h6. You just have queen e6, f takes, and bishop g6. Okay, of course, this is not going to happen, but I'm just showing you some interesting mating nets. But of course, it may happen after you play knight f3, they fill the knight g5, they play h6, and all of a sudden you make a masterpiece of your life. Imagine b5, bishop e4, and this is similar to my blitz game. So the rook is hanging, they take, you just go knight d6, and you know what, buddy? If you can castle, and I just played knight f3, rook h3, or push my pawn all the way to h6 with a rook on a7, the stupid bishop here, inability to develop your king. I mean, this is so sad for black. And finally, if bishop d3, knight c6, by now you should have learned queen e2, bishop f4. Couple of guys online tried. This did not happen to me, but they just tried to develop like this and to swap off this bishop. You don't have time for that. You play long castle, and now fun fact is you threaten bishop a6 or knight b5. I found a game where the guy played like this, knight b5, threatening knight e6. Very lovely trick. And after knight d5, knight d6, of course. If you play e6, I can play bishop d6. I can play knight d6. I can play knight e7. Of course, I'm just saying, even in the worst case scenario stuff, you can just go with all this stuff. But of course, you're going to play knight c7 and win an exchange. But I'm just saying sometimes it's better to carry on with the attack than to win material. If after bishop h5, castles e6, g4, kick it away, take on g6 and win the queen. So they cannot even go with this one. They go a6. We already analyzed this position and I showed you. Any queen a5, you just go like this. They go like this. You play bishop e1. And who's going to stop the knight d6? Who's going to stop knight d6 now? Everything goes down with tempo. And of course, it's either checkmate or it's a serious material consequences. They go bishop d7. We already discussed this. You play this. Any b5 smothered mate. Don't ever forget about this beautiful idea of the smothered mate like in Caracan. e6, you just play bishop e4. Is that the only move? Not. You can also play knight f3 over supporting and getting like a strong, firm grip on e5. Also, you can put your bishop back on c2 or an e4, and afterwards somehow try to take advantage of the open d file. All things considered, variation looks very, very, very serious. And even though it's one of those gambits, I find it extremely nice right now when nobody knows about it. So if knight f6, bishop f4, you just go with it. For example, I found a guy who tried this bishop g4 online against someone. Not queen b3, not queen a4, play queen c2. You threaten to take on e4. That basically forces them, because they're behind in development, to take. You take by bishop. Now you have three minor pieces developed plus f3 followed by long castle. h3, knight e2, and long castle. It's extremely difficult to be... I don't even think it's holdable speaking from objective point of view here. And finally, I checked what engines say. Engines say e3. E3 like the refutation of this gambit. I mean, when I say refutation, at least to get a playable game with the black pieces. F takes e3, and it tried some knight d5, for example, threatening the bishop, for example. Then you should be going with queen f3. Very lovely way of attacking, of defending on f4. And if they, for example, defend, you now threaten knight b5. They gotta go a6, knight c4. b5, threatening mate. Bishop e6, d4. And now you wanna take, you wanna play knight f3, knight g5. You wanna play long castles, d takes c5. Plenty of very nice and very sweet threats by white. So after bishop f4, by the way, any knight c6, you just go into this. This is what I want to show you as well. I also checked this variation, and it looked to me, at first glance like something okay for them. But you know what? It's dangerous. We now threaten knight b5. If they go a6, you just go with knight c4, trying to take advantage of b6 square. For example, they go knight a4, you play knight b6 and win the piece. They have to go with bishop e6, and this is for analysis. I'm not saying it's anything that's special now. Knight b6, rook d8. You just go with this one. Fun fact is that now if they try to take the pawn, you just win the exchange. But okay, you gave so much material for the exchange. Actually, not so much material. You can play like this. But you know what? I mean, if you like, in these positions after bishop e6, you can, for example, play a4 to stop b5 to control everything. You can play f3 to defend an e4. You can play this knight b6, rook d8. I don't think rook a1 is the only move, but it can be played to defend on a2 and to move this rook. So that's why you do it. And finally, when you play like rook a1, now you really threaten this bishop c7. And it's funny, but the rook on d8 is in real danger. If queen d1, rook d1, and they go e5, now they have so many problems on c7 with a fork, and you just go with this and bishop g5. You know what? Since I'm threatening this, the file is mine. I can play knight f3, bishop c4, knight d5. You're in serious danger. And finally, after you play d3 and they play knight f6, you play bishop f4 like nothing's happening. I showed you all this stuff. And what if a6? They're just trying to defend, win on the spot. This is the engine top line for black. You take, they take. And by the way, at the moment, we're not done even the pawn. They take the pawn, which is, of course, the engine approach. Knight c4, threatening knight b6 to win rook or piece. Knight d7 only move. If knight c6, you just win a piece. And if knight d7, you just go beautiful g3 move. Now you threaten bishop g2, go after the knight. For example, b5, bishop g2. It's funny that you can't play bishop b7. You don't have time for that. Knight a5 and everything's hanging and you're lost. So they gotta go with b takes c4. You take like this and play knight f3. And you know what? When they play bishop b7, since they threaten on b2, you just go back with the bishop on c1, defending on b2. And now they're left with the weak king, undeveloped king side, and so many broken pawns. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'd rather play this with white pieces. Guys, you just have to thank to Max for asking me to do a video about this one. Hope that you enjoyed in the Sicilian Alapin Gambit. Hopefully you're going to have so many nice wins and you're going to send them, you know, like as a feedback to this last lecture, and that you're just going to have like so many funny games with this line. Hope that you're satisfied, that you're going to enjoy, that you enjoy this lecture, and get ready for the real things that Christmas is coming. All the best.